Everybody, Paul Angelo here. Welcome to another field trip. The first field trip in 2019. It is April 25 and it's beautiful out here, and we're going to talk about emotional awakening. We will talk about why emotional awakening is really the final answer in terms of how to become ready for relationships. Interestingly enough, I come from a background of being a logical person, and people used to call me stick in the mud. Paul is a stick in the mud. He is not fun, he's not emotional, he's overly logical and boring to be around. So that's what people used to tell me, and still some people tell me that today because I'm so serious in general. But the emotional awakening happened for me through a lot of practices of staying in relationships, not walking away from them. So a good example is staying inside of conflict, not walking away from it in my relationship with Frank. And gradually the membranes of masking my pain or my stubbornness was broken through, and I opened up my heart. And it took a few years to do that. The more I coach men, the more I see that coaching in terms of mental gymnastics, just proposing ideas and twisting concepts, introducing philosophies, that is good to a certain level. But the ultimate coaching tool is the presence of another person in front of you and dealing with conflicts, disagreements, miscommunications, and not walking away from each other. That the openness of the heart, the emotional awakening, does not happen on its own. It happens out of conflict. And I know some of you don't like it, what I'm saying, that you don't want conflict, and every time that there's conflict you walk away. But unfortunately, the emotional aspects of our consciousness or our makeup as a persona, it requires a catalyst, a breakdown, people say sometimes, or in Landmark Forum, if some of you have taken a leadership training, when we play rackets, in other words, where we are not dishonest with ourselves or other people, we need to have a catalyst to break that down. We need to have a breakdown in order for the emotion to be let out. The emotion will come out of the discomfort. The emotion is not going to come because it's comfortable. In fact, that's the essence of personal development, is the breakdown of the hesitation to cry, the breakdown of the hesitation to express emotion. To the degree that you can let yourself break apart and feel what you feel and then communicate it to another person, that is the emotional awakening. And the more often you do it, the more competent you will be in the language of emotional expression. I've learned this with Frank because we've had a lot of fights. He's a Scorpio, I am a Leo. We butt heads all the time, and he's very strong. He doesn't let me to, tell him what to do. So I have to do a lot of flexing and a lot of emotional gymnastics. And I've learned that through the expression of crying, expression of my suffering, telling him how much I struggle when I don't receive love from him. And when I cry about it right in front of him, I see in his eyes a real awakening happening. And finally, he is able to see that I am really struggling emotionally, and he's willing to give me what I want. That the emotional awakening is not just for you. Emotional awakening is for your lover to see that what you're going through is a major struggle. And in relationships, if we don't express our concerns, our struggles, our discomforts, then the relatedness is really not relatedness. It's basically, two concrete pieces of stone, not human beings. That if we really want to bond for a long time with each other, emotion is the energy, or the emotion is the process. The more you become vulnerable, cry, share your suffering in front of another, the reality of your suffering is becoming the reality for your lover or for the person that you're with. The challenge with emotional awakening is that the environments right now out there in the social world are not conducive to help you or to facilitate that for you. In other words, a lot of times when you cry or when you become vulnerable, the other person is going to walk away. He's going to think that there's something wrong. He's going to say, you're broken, or you are acting like a sissy, or you are feminine. Where in reality, all of us are basically little children, and our pain is still inside of us, even though we mask it. This is why when in heterosexual relationships, when a woman passes away, the man passes away shortly thereafter, because the woman was the facilitator of the emotional expression for the man. And that's what you see from research in terms of heterosexual relationships. When the woman goes, the man goes shortly thereafter, because for some reason, our emotional aliveness is the essence of our normal life. That the anxieties and the depression that we have inside of us is not because there's something wrong, but it's because we are not expressing our emotion. And emotions are the expression of, even we can take this as far as to describe emotion as an expression of a cellular biological functions in our bodies. So it's not just emotion as it pertains to other people. Emotion is the signature of what's happening inside of us. And if we don't become awakened to the emotion and express it in the purest natural way, through crying, through showing the struggle, through confessing, through sharing secrets, then part of us is not available. And the bonding cannot happen. And so people jump from relationship to the relationship to the relationship, thinking that sex is what connects people. Sex doesn't connect people. Emotions connect people, and then you bring in sex into it. And if you start out with sex, then you have to bring emotion into it. And the challenge with that is not a lot of people that are really good with sex know how to bring in emotion into their relatedness. And so they jump from one to the next, looking for that perfection. And that perfection, it never is there. And instead of the perfection, what we really want is an emotional connection. So imagine replacing the perfection in terms of sexual connection and attraction and switching that to perfection in terms of emotional bonding and connection. That's something valuable for you to practice. Now, so in terms of personal health and mental health, emotional awakening is the essence of it, because it lets us express the pain, and then we are less likely to be depressed and anxious. And again, the container has to be there. Most people, when they witness a man who's crying, who's uncomfortable with emotion, who's expressing his emotion, those men run the other way. They assume there's something wrong. So it takes education. People need to be educated about how emotions really work. And that as men, like I said a moment ago, we are children, we're little babies. We are still little babies inside. And we don't have women as our lovers. So who's going to facilitate the channeling out of those emotions? Nobody. So we have to somehow learn how to do it. And so again, those men that run away from it, those men who are afraid of it, they're just not educated about the basic function of human psychic or human psychology. Emotion is the essence of it. And on Grindr, on Match.com, OkCupid, it's basically people barking at each other. Those environments are not containers for healthy human interaction. It's just the opposite. People literally treat each other like objects. Emotion is never part of the exchange. People feel constantly invalidated and misunderstood. There's not even a moment where the emotional expression can be authenticated by each other. Frank was here Frank right now works in a different country, and he visited here for Easter, and we had an amazing hike during the Eastern celebration. And we had a lot of emotional conversations, a lot of what you would call intimate sharing, vulnerability, where we discussed very deep concerns, my personal struggles, his personal struggles in our relationship because of the distance right now. He left Colorado last year. He got an amazing job. He's really changing the world. He is involved in an amazing project that has to do with environmentalism. And so I believe it's good for him to be away to work on the project as opposed to being here with me. But I was really upset that I'm alone now, even though we are in a relationship, but I'm alone in my place and I have to do all kinds of stuff and work all the time, and I find it very difficult. I find it very difficult to focus. I find it very difficult to complete my projects because he's not with me. And so I'm noticing the difference when he's with me and not with me, and the struggles I have. I cried in front of him, letting him know that I miss him and I need him. And so this is an example of how emotional expression is necessary for Frank to feel like we are still together, for him to see that I love him, that we love each other. And through emotion is how we share that, not through gifts. He bought me a gift, and I said to him, listen, that's wonderful, but what I really want is I want us to really be open and transparent and talk about emotions and talk about depth and intimacy and all of that. And of course, he agreed with that. But I had to lead that way. Because I have the training and I coach this subject, I lead with this way. And so it's not always obvious to do it, and he would not initiate it. And so that's why I'm creating this video. Emotional awakening is the essence of every relationship. Don't be persuaded by all the sex out there. A lot of men have no education about relationships. The culture of consumerism, the culture of materialism, the social conditioning from the very fragmented gay community does not teach principles of healthy relationships. And that's why a lot of us regressive in terms of emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is what's going to make your relationships work, not sexual intelligence, emotional intelligence. People can always find a fuck buddy or someone else to have sex with, but can they connect emotionally with everybody? No, they can't, because that is something totally different. And if you can do that with your lovers, if you can open up your heart to them, if you can open emotionally, you are way ahead of the game in terms of being available for healthy, long-term relationships. So I hope this video helps you. For more videos like these, please visit my website at paulangelo.com. We've got an enormous library of videos that deal with the psychology of gay relationships, sexuality, dating, connecting. Also, we have the Big Gay Family Social Program. The latest new edition has been rolled out recently, so if you want to transform your personal relationships immediately, then please join us at the Big Gay Family Social Program, and for that, visit the website biggayfamily.com. So thanks for watching this video. Looking forward to sharing with you more in upcoming videos. And until we talk in the next video, as always, my friends, go out there, think big, stay present, and be a leader in your life today. Signing off. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Turning quickly hand over hand, the clock is ticking, time is moving fast. Reviewing all the lessons we have learned from mistakes lost in the past.